Welcome to National Parks Traveler, where we explore the national parks and the issues that involve them. The coastal town of Rodanthe, North Carolina is just a small spot on the map, but it's a big place in the hearts of the people who live, own property, and vacation there. Located along Cape Hatteras National Seashore, Rodanthe has been in the national spotlight because of a succession of houses that have fallen into the Atlantic Ocean recently due to beach erosion. There have been 10 houses affected in the past 4 years and 5 this year alone. This is Jess Repencheck, stepping in this week as your host for the National Parks Traveler. As the Traveler and other national media outlets have reported, every time a beach house succumbs to the sea, it creates a massive debris field that is carried down the shore for miles, posing serious hazards to people, flora, and fauna alike. Residents have described the phenomenon as a slow-motion hurricane. In addition to the ongoing discussions about other at-risk houses, there's the very real issue of cleanup. The National Park Service brings in contractors who take out debris in truckloads, but that doesn't mean that local residents are just standing idly by. Recently, Traveler correspondent Kim O'Connell had the pleasure of interviewing local Tom Brueckner the day before he was set to join a group of residents to do a big beach cleanup as part of the National Park Service's newly launched Adopt a Beach program. We'll be back with Kim and Tom after the break. The Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation is the primary nonprofit fundraising partner for the Blue Ridge Parkway. It is made up of people who have a deep love for this majestic road and want to ensure that its natural beauty and the experiences it offers endure for generations to come. Show your appreciation at brpfoundation.org. Smokey's Life. Full of stunning photography and thought-provoking reads, Smokey's Life Journal is a biannual magazine produced by Smokey's Life, formerly the Great Smoky Mountains Association. Members receive it free of charge each spring and fall, and it is available for purchase in retail stores throughout Great Smoky Mountains National Park and online at smokieslife.org. Acadia National Park is one of the 10 most popular national parks in the United States. It is also one of the smallest and most vulnerable. That is why Friends of Acadia exists. Friends of Acadia is an independent organization of passionate people inspiring those who love this magnificent park to make a real and lasting difference for Acadia. You can make a difference at friendsofacadia.org. Listener and reader support make the National Parks Traveler possible every day of the year. If you enjoy the Traveler's content, please consider a donation at nationalparkstraveler.org.
Thank you again so much for agreeing to talk with me a little bit about what you've been seeing and what you've been experiencing down there at Rodanthe. Okay. So I guess just to start, maybe you could tell me a little bit about how long you've had a house there on Hatteras Island, kind of what your history has been with Hatteras.
Okay, well, I started bringing my family down here in the early 90s. We bought a house then, and we stepped up to a larger house. These are all in Salvo, North Carolina, which is part of they call it Tri-Villages, which is Rodanthe, Waves, and Salvo. We've owned property here since the early 90s. And in this particular house, we always used to rent it out and use it for our own vacation time. And then we retired down here 5 years ago. And my wife and I live here all year round now in the town called Salvo.
That's wonderful. As I mentioned, I've been going to Hatteras for a long time. And when we first started coming to Hatteras, we used to stay in Salvo all the time. And I know the Tri-Villages pretty well. So for those who don't know, Salvo is not that far down the beach, just a few miles from Rodanthe, where all these houses have been succumbing to erosion and falling into the ocean. And so I'm guessing that since you've been retired there and also been coming there a long time, you've seen a lot of change already on Hatteras Island. But what have your thoughts been just watching this erosion happening and seeing how many houses have succumbed to the ocean?
Well, it's funny. It's the beach erosion doesn't happen along the entire beach line. It's kind of spotty. A lot of it comes about from lately. We've had a very strong northeast wind, consistent all the time. Normally, you get a northeast storm, might do some damage to the beach. And then you have like a month of nice weather where the winds are more offshore, more southwest. But primarily now, every day it's a northeast wind. So that's pushing the sand in the southern direction, obviously, and it's just moving the sand constantly. Some areas are affected more than others. It depends upon the direction that that particular beach is facing. In our area in Salvo, we have 3 very high dunes that haven't been touched, and the beaches remain perfect for as long as I can remember. But in other areas, it could be just a mile up the road. If the beach is facing a certain direction, it gets more erosion.
Yeah, it's so
So
interesting. I mean,
it's not everywhere.
there's been a lot of, overwash, over there near Rodanthe, and I know that has a lot to do with why the Jug Handle Bridge was built several years back. I'm sure you witnessed that bridge being built and watched that go up.
Well, actually, there's an area above Merlot Beach. Merlot Beach is a community kind of separate to its own. It's part of Rodanthe, but it's a smaller little offset of Rodanthe. It's called Merlot Beach. That's just the very northern part of the Tri-Villages. Above that is an area called S-Curves. It's a name given by surfers because it was a very popular surfing spot. All the surfers would park there and everything. But that became the weak spot. And several storms, the road would be breached, the highway would be torn up, and there was always worry that there would be an inlet was going to be put through there in no time. So they built the Jug Handle Bridge. And believe it or not, that area has filled up with sand and is more sand than it's ever had. So the inlet never happened. And there's a lot of people down here to think if we had an inlet in a couple of spots, it may make a big difference on the beach erosion.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other thought, put some jetties in, but that's apparently that can't be done. There's a North Carolina ruling that no jetties can be put on, no structures can be put on the beaches like a jetty in North Carolina. And that may help because it's helped in other states. I know New Jersey, where I originally was from, jetties have done a very good job in those beaches.
Yeah, I think it's, such an interesting and complex situation there at Hatteras because you've got, federal land, you've got private land, and it's kind of like where does private home ownership and responsibility end and where does the federal National Park Service responsibility begin? And I understand it's a very complex situation.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, sometimes you can predict as much as you can, and it's still things don't play out the way you might expect them to because it's just an ever shifting, sandbar basically. So I'm sure it's been just, hard and heartbreaking for you to see all these houses go in the ocean. Can you tell me just a little bit about, how it feels to, own a house down there and see this happen just a few miles north of you?
Yeah, well, many people live here all year round. Many of the homes were bought for investment purposes only as a rental property, and particularly some of these oceanfront homes. So the owners aren't really here, some of them. They just rent that property through a rental agency. And what happens is when the water starts coming under these houses, you have the septic system that has to be drained, and then they basically condemn a house when it gets to that point. But the way the insurance companies they don't pay for it until it collapses into the water. So some people have had them moved on their own. They paid the money to have a company move them and down the road or, across the other side of the highway or whatever. In fact, the Park Service, there was 2 homes that were still on legitimate government property, Park Service property. This summer or last summer, they bought 2 homes ahead of time before they would fall in the water. They had them removed before they fell in the, just collapsed into the water. When that happens, the debris just goes down the beach in no time. It can travel 20 miles down the beach. All the pilings and all the boards, the roofing material, everything. You'll see a toilet on the beach. That's how this stuff moves down the beach. It's terrible.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures,
it's a
and
big problem.
It seems really shocking how quickly the ocean can move that debris, and their whole house is full of debris. And now you have a situation when you have one house falling after another. So it's like almost like you can't keep up with it. And I know that there were issues that people had found some medical waste and things like that. It can be very problematic and dangerous, I think, for, downstream beaches. So
Well,
yeah, that's difficult.
the boards would worry us the most. The swimmers worry about a board coming in. I have a lot of surfer friends that say these boards are 3-4 feet under the water because they're so waterlogged, and it's dangerous. But the ocean works pretty fast. Before you know it, it's up on the beach somewhere, and then Park Service does a pretty good job at removing it. They get a contract. They can bring in private contractors to move all the heavy stuff off. This weekend, on Saturday, tomorrow, we're actually having a beach cleanup through the North Carolina Beach Buggy Association.
That's
it's an
great.
organization. Yeah. And we have adopted a beach of our own, they call it. This is a program through the Park Service. Adopt a Beach, much similar to Adopt a Highway that the Department of Transportation runs.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an area of a beach that we're going to clean up. Now, there's a lot of small stuff out there from the house debris, things like carpeting material, and you name it, you'll find shingles and all kinds of stuff.
So have you done anything like that before, Tom, or is this going to be a new experience?
Yeah, we actually did a pilot for the Park Service in December, and it went very well. We had about 30 volunteers. We went out there with our 4-wheel drive vehicles. Some of the fellows had trailers to pull out, so we put a lot of the heavier lumber on there that was just laying on the beach. And then other people would walk the beach and just fill up their buckets and bags with all the small debris and litter. And not everything is from the houses. There's stuff coming in from cruising ships, from boats, and stuff you find. It's pretty interesting. You'll find golf tees on the beach. Now, where are they coming from? They're coming from cruise ships.
Wow.
You'll find shotgun shells float up on the beach. And again, that's a little sporting event, I guess, on a cruise ship that ends up on our beaches. So, and the other big thing is balloons with the strings hanging from them.
Oh,
we
boy.
actually had a woman up in the northern beaches, Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills, who worked really hard to get these things banned in Dare County. But the problem is these things come in from many distances. You'll have them come in from Tennessee. You'll see a car dealership or something on the balloon, and that's something that's really tough on the sea turtles and the birds, and they get in those stringy ribbons and stuff. So a lot of it is to protect the wildlife here, and we're doing the best we can, but it's the battle.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just, my hat's off to you and all your fellow volunteers for taking out personal time to take care of these beaches that I know you love a lot and that so many people love.
Take a lot of pride. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I appreciate you doing that. So you said there's a big cleanup. We're talking on a Friday. So you're doing a big cleanup tomorrow on a Saturday.
Tomorrow morning.
Do you know about how many people are going to be coming out for that?
I would say there'll be about 30 to 40 people, volunteers from all over. We've done a pretty good job advertising it. A lot of the local people will come, we believe. And then you'll get somebody from inland say, I heard about the cleanup. I'd like to bring my kids in. We let children do it and all. I mean, you got to wear your shoes out there. It's not a barefoot, thing where you can just enjoy the beach. You wear gloves and things. We're well prepared for it. And again, this is all through the Park Service, a new program they've put together called Adopt a Beach. And all the ramps along the highway that have access to the beach, you have like a span of about 3 miles where we're going to cover that much area.
That's great. I appreciate that so much. And I imagine that this is probably just, the first, and there may be others that come down later, I imagine.
Yeah. We do it 4 times a year, our organization, the North Carolina Beach Buggy Association.
That's great.
The other ramps, and there's many ramps here all the way down to Hatteras Village. And the hope is, this is, again, a new program was just introduced this year to get other organizations or maybe businesses to adopt the beach. And you get signage on that beach. So when people pull in their trucks or their four-wheel drives or they walk up, they'll see our name there, that we maintain this beach. So, but we need more of the ramps and the parking areas and things to be attended to.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And so I've heard people describe, the collapse of these houses as kind of like a slow-moving hurricane. And of course, there is a real hurricane that's coming up, up towards the Carolinas and already affecting the Carolinas and the eastern seaboard. Like, what are the impacts that you're seeing right now from Helene?
Fortunately, it's behind us. It's to the west of us. So right now it's calm outside. We have not really gotten not even any rain to speak of. It's cloudy, but it's missed us. It's behind the Pamlico Sound. It's inland in the Carolinas. I talked to my daughter this morning. Greenville, South Carolina, which is the western part of the state. They had the eye go through there last night. And they lost a lot of trees and flooding. Power's down there. So this storm has missed us, fortunately.
Because I know people are very worried about Hatteras because, between the erosion, there's been all these impacts on these houses and we're always worried about what the next big storm might do while you already have so many fragile structures along the coast there. Yeah.
That's part of the, you get used to it. And the people here stick together unbelievably, particularly the year-round folks. The residents, there's a brotherhood here that, we're used to storms, we're used to northeasters, we're used to foul weather, and but fortunately there's a lot more nicer weather than the storms. So
I appreciate that. Well, that's about all I was looking for, Tom. But I guess just to close, maybe you can just tell me a little bit about what you love so much about Hatteras. Like, if you were to tell someone what makes this place so special, what is that for you?
Well, again, it's a spot my wife and I retired at. It's very different. It's not for it's for a kind of a hardy person in that regard, where you know that the storm could come up anytime, and you live here, you have all your belongings and everything. It's just a very different place. I love the off season. My favorite time of the year is basically starting around now. We have a bunch of fishing tournaments through the October into November, which brings in a lot of people. But after that, it's the solitudeness, the walking on the beach in the morning and night, and there's nobody out there. It's incredible, and that's what we like about it.
That's great. Well, thanks for doing your part to keep it special, and
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
All right, Kim, thanks.
That's our show for this week. We hope you found it compelling. Marine debris and litter is a growing problem that affects the health and beauty of our coastal environments. It's estimated that over 23 million metric tons of waste enter our oceans each year, causing considerable harm to local ecosystems as well as creating hazards for beach visitors. This year, the National Park Service has launched its first ever Adopt a Beach volunteer program designated to make a meaningful impact on the health and appearance of the beaches at Cape Hatteras National Seashore. To learn more about that program, head on over to nps.gov/adoptabeach. Thanks to Mr. Brueckner and the North Carolina Beach Buggy Association for their cleanup efforts this weekend. For National Parks Traveler, this is Jess Repencheck. See you in the parks. The composers and musicians at Orange Tree Productions have created a unique collection known as the National Park Series that has grown to include more than 30 CD titles. Composed against the backdrop of a park's sounds of nature, these musical scores will connect you with these beautiful places and take you there, at least in your mind. This collection is the #1 selling National Park audio series in the world and provides the background music for National Parks Travelers podcasts. Visit them at orangetreeproductions.com. Editing and production work for the National Parks Traveler podcast is done by Splitbeard Productions. You can learn more about us at splitbeardproductions.com. National Parks Traveler is a 501c3 nonprofit media organization that provides daily editorial coverage of national parks and protected areas. Traveler's coverage is made possible by reader and listener donations. Visit us at nationalparkstraveler.org.